Hello, and welcome to the Beyond Paranormal Investigations podcast. I'll be your host, Nathan Smith. Now, for this first episode, we didn't really have a good, strong, steady topic because not enough of you wrote in about the same things. So, I have a guest with me that's going to tell her story about her own paranormal experiences. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Nathan.
All right. So, go ahead and tell us your story.
All right, well, I'd like to start off by thanking you for having me on the podcast, and here we go. My story starts spring of '05, '04, '05. I was 15 years old, and I was very heavily into Wicca, into witchcraft. And it was something that was very important to me in my life, and uh, it was more than just love spells and all that stuff. Like, I actually looked at it as a religion. One of my close friends had gotten me into it, and we'd been doing it she'd been doing it longer than me. I'd been doing it for about 3 years, and we would get together at her house, and she would always try and get me to do seances with her, which I wasn't very comfortable with. She was more on the darker side of things. But she ended up talking me into doing a seance one night, and every time we did it, we always talked to the same guy. His name was Bobby, but he liked to be called Bobo. And he would tell us random things, like that he had been killed not too far away from where she lived, and that it was a very long time ago, like in the 1800s. I'm not really sure if that was real, any of that. But one night I was at her house, and she talked me into doing it, to doing a seance, to talk to this guy, Bobo. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, we start doing it, and we're asking for him, and we can't, he's not coming through. We're not getting anything. And then she asks about, two or three times, and, is anyone there? And then all of a sudden it says yes, on the spirit board. And she's like, well, is this Bobby? And it said no. It spelled out no. And we were like, well, who is it? She kept asking again with no response. We were getting a really on edge feeling, not feeling very good about the whole situation. So we decided to put the board up. Nothing really happened that night, but we, just really felt on edge. We heard all the little bumps and creaks in the house. It was a very scary experience. Well, the next day, I'm at home, minding my own business. I pushed it to the back of my mind, and everything's fine. Then that night, I go to sleep, and I have one of the most surreal dreams I've ever had. In my dream, the whole dream was silent. I was in my bedroom at my previous house that I lived in, and in my dream, I was in my room hammering shelves onto the walls. And now remember, the whole dream is silent. I'm hammering shelves onto my wall, and all of a sudden my dad comes in and starts, screaming. It looks like we're having an argument. Well, he ends up grabbing me by the back of my head and throwing me into my bed, and I lay there crying, and he storms out of my room, and I'm laying there crying, and the whole dream is silent up until this point. My door slams, and there is a pentagram on the back of my door glowing. And all of a sudden, I start hearing a demonic scream. I've never heard anything like it before. But I start hearing this demonic screaming, and it just gets louder and louder until I'm jolted out of my sleep, sweating. But my room is cold, and my space heater is going off. I like to keep a space heater in my room. I like to stay warm, but my space heater is going off, which I'm guessing is what prompted the sound. But my room was freezing cold. It just didn't make any sense. It was a very, very strange dream that I hope I never have again, or one like it. But yeah, and I had animals. I had two cats at the time, and they always loved to be in my room. That was like where they stayed. Out of everywhere in the house, they stayed in my room. Well, after that night, after that incident, my cats would never come in my room unless I forced them. Have to pick them up and carry them in my room and shut the door before they could run out. And they would always lay at my door, moaning this most god-awful cat sound. It's like worse than cat sex, like the sound cats make when they're having sex. But they would just make the most god-awful moaning sounds and just paw underneath my door, begging to get out of my room. My room was always cold. I would always feel very strange, like I wasn't alone when I knew I was alone. I couldn't put my finger on what was going on, but I knew it had something to do with messing with that spirit board. I knew it. And I tried so many times, so many different spells and rituals, protection spells, and anything that I could think of, to protect myself because I was scared. I knew something wasn't right with my room or, with me. I felt like I was being followed. There were times whenever I would have swarms, like of 2 or 3 wasps just up in the corners of my rooms, which was also very strange, because it'd be kind of hard for them to get to my room in the house the way it was set up, that many of them like that. It was very, very morbid and very, very terrifying. But the only time that I felt like good, like I had this overwhelming just fear always over me all the time. And the only time I didn't really feel like that was whenever I was at school. And, with it being, it was spring, summer's coming up, I'm terrified, because school was like a safe haven for me, or my friend's house, as long as I had somebody with me at all times. That's the only time that I really felt safe. But everything really started to escalate about a month later. This happened to me for about a month, just this weird, strange occurrences for about a month. And then a month later, I'm sitting in the living room of my parents' house, and my father, he's a musician. He's carrying his guitar case outside to put in his car because he's got a gig to play. And I was sitting in a rocking chair, and the door frame to a hallway that leads to my room is directly behind the rocking chair that I'm sitting in this particular scenario that happened. So he walks by, and he stops dead in his tracks right in between me and the TV. So I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? And then I just see the color drain from his face. And my dad is a very tan man, and I see the color just drain from his face, and this sheer look of terror, just complete terror, wash over him. And he's dropped his guitar case, and he just takes off. I'm like, Dad, what's wrong? He just takes off without his guitar, gets in his car, leaves, and is gone for an hour. And me and my sibling and my mother are all, what the heck is going on? My mother is trying to reach him on his cell phone. We can't get a hold of him. He comes back an hour later and tells us that he wants us all to go into his bedroom for a family meeting. He wants to talk to us. And he proceeds to tell me that he saw a shadow figure that was about 6.5, 7 feet tall, and it had horns. This was his account. This is what he told me. And he saw it dart. It was standing in the hall, and he saw it dart into my room. My door was open. It was adjacent. He saw it just dart in there, and it scared him. And I'd never seen him so scared in my whole life. I've never seen him that terrified before. So, at this time, I decide that I probably need to tell them what I've been doing because I'm scared, you know. Now I know this feeling that I've had for the past month is not just me. It's not just in my imagination. This is something that is very real, and I'm terrified. So I decide that I need to tell them what I've been doing with, you know, Wicca and things of that nature.
And how'd they take that?
Oh, it was not good at all. My parents are very, very religious people, and they're very close-minded people. So they just went off. You know, I won't go into the details about all the stuff that was said. You know, burn in hell, you don't need to be doing that. What are you doing with your life? Those kinds of things were thrown around, but I won't go into all the details of that. But you know, after things had calmed down a little bit, my dad was like, you know, I want you to come with me into your room. I'm going to play Amazing Grace and sing, and I want you to sing with me. So I said I would do it. Hold on just a sec. I need to relight my cigarette. Alright. So we go into my room. I say I'll do it. We go into my room, and he starts to play, and he starts to sing. And my feet weren't touching the ground at this particular moment. I was sitting Indian style on my bed. And my dad says, do you feel that? And I was like, feel what? And he just stops playing and touches his hand to the ground, and I do the same thing, and there is a tremble in the floor. It's trembling. So I'm like, well, you know, holy shit, this is getting really real. He keeps playing, singing, I'm singing with him, and it just starts shaking more and more and more and more. And I did have shelves on my wall. I had actually put up those shelves before my dream, which I just wanted to point that out, but I had shelves on my wall, and I had stuff on my walls, books, you know, little figurines, things of that nature, and we sang and we played, and no lie, every single thing that I had sitting on my computer desk and my shelves that could fall, fell. It was scary. At that moment, it was that was the scariest moment of my life that I'd ever had. I was terrified. Something was in my house. Something was in my room. Something was following me, and I had no idea what it was, other than it was a 7-foot shadow person with horns. So I'm pretty sure you can imagine how I'm feeling at the moment. 15-year-old.
Well, imagine you're freaking out.
Yeah, hell yeah, I was freaking out, man. It was scary. It was so, so scary. And of course, whenever we left the room and we went back into my parents' bedroom, which is where my sister and my mother were, we asked them, did you feel anything? Did you guys feel anything? No. Did a train go by? Even though we don't live close enough, or they don't live close enough to the train tracks for anything like that, what happened could happen. We said, you know, we just asked, did a train go by? Nope. A completely unexplainable event happened that day. Well, it is unexplainable, but it's not to me. It was something paranormal. It was something evil. I really think it was evil. It was pure evil. That night, my parents put a open Bible on my computer desk, and they left it open. And I can't quite recall what the verse is called, but it's the verse that says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, because you have a rod and something like that. I don't know. I can look it up. There we go. Hold on. Psalms 23:4. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. My parents left the Bible open to that verse. all slept